As I was thinking what kind of games that I play that involved math, I was having a really hard time at first. I don't like math, so I try not to play with it more than I have to. But then it hit me that my everyday life revolves around math. I mean, it's simple math, but it's still math. So the game that I'm going to present to you is the game of barrel racing.
This is Shawnee Sagers, your second. Look at this. Girl, she's down the team. Go time, and now she's here in the barrel. Snow College. 17:07.
The way it works is the fastest time wins, hence the name race. For every barrel that is knocked over, you get a 5-second penalty added to your time. So if you hit all 3 barrels, then you get a 15-second penalty. But even if you hit one, you're usually out of it anyway. You can either take 1 right turn or 2 lefts. That's what I did in the video that I previously showed you. Or 1 left turn and 2 rights, but either way it still has to be a cloverleaf pattern. And everybody will pay an entry fee, but not everybody gets paid back. Rodeo is the only sport that you pay to play, but it pays very well when you do win. In college rodeo, they have what's called a long round and a short round. The video you watched was me in the short round. You have to qualify to go to it, which means you compete once, and then they take the top 20 fastest times from that rodeo to go back and compete again. And then from there, they give points for each go-round, so you'll get points for your first go, points for your second go. And then they also take an average of your 2 runs and give you points for that, as well as some of the money that you win. But in college, we're really chasing points so that we can go to the national finals in June. In college rodeo, the main idea is to get as many points as you can. I mean, it's nice to get the paycheck at the end too, and that's why we have to go by a different rule book than the rest of the intercollegiate sports, is because we get paid so they consider us professionals, even though some of us really aren't. But then there are the few that do have their pro cards, like me, that are competing professionally as well. But the way that it works is you get 60 points for each go-round, so you have the long go and the short go, and then 60 points for the average. And even though they take 20 back to the short go, only 6 people get points. And so first place would get 60, second place would get 50, third would get 40, and so on until there's 10 points given. If you knock a barrel, you're pretty much out of it and you're not going to place, so you're not going to get any points. So you don't want to hit barrels. And then if you think about it, and this is where the logical thinking kind of comes in, is you might have a really, really cool horse and win it every 3rd time, but when there's only 10 rodeos in a season, it might be better off for you to place 3rd every single go around and the average than to only place in every 3rd rodeo, because in the end you'll get more points because you're more consistent. So that's kind of how I am. I mean, I'll go and I'll win a couple of rodeos here and there. I do have a really nice horse, but I kind of just fall in the middle, and I've gotten points at every single rodeo that I haven't hit a barrel, but I haven't won as many as some of the other girls. And I'm still sitting pretty high to where I could go to nationals right now, because I've been consistent and just kind of floated in the middle and gotten points every time instead of tried to win it every time. As far as the problem solving in this game goes, I mean, you just don't want to hit barrels. It's not going to work for you. And I could go into a bunch of detail about how you want to lift your horse's shoulder up off the barrel and make sure their butt doesn't swing around, but that would go totally over your guys' head because you wouldn't have a clue that I was talking about. As far as the problem solving to explain to you guys, I can't really explain it a whole lot because it's more in the technique of it, and a lot of the terms you probably wouldn't understand because us barrel racers like to have a little bit of a language of our own. Just like if one of you guys tried to explain your sport, like football or basketball or something, I probably wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about other than you wanted to get the ball to a certain place, and that's about all I could get out of it. So pretty much for problem solving, if you're hitting barrels, you want to go back to the drawing board and just not do it, because you're not going to get anywhere by hitting barrels. It's not like hitting a strike in bowling. So that's as far as the problem solving goes that I can explain to you guys. How does math relate to barrel racing? Well, it's mostly simple math that relates to it. You first want to start by finding the average. The average is going to be the time from your short go and your first go added together. So say I ran a 17.032 in one go and a 17.241 in the other go. And where there was two of them, you would add those times together generally and divide by 2. That's how we've always been taught to do averages. Well, rodeo does them a little bit different. Instead of dividing by however many times that you actually ran, it's just all of your times added together. So if you were 17.032 and a 17.241, you would just add those two numbers together. So your average would be a 34.273. And that's just how it works. I don't really know why they do it that way. That's just kind of the way that we've done it. Because a true average, you would think, you divide by however many. That's how, we've always done it in math, and it's not in rodeo. But like I said, we're a little bit different. And then once you have your average figured out, you can determine the places for the average placings and who was first and second, third, and so on. So then you can award the points. So the first go points, you get 60 points. Second go, you get 60 points. Third, average, you get 60 points. And if a girl won all 3 of them, you could get a total of 180 points. But that doesn't happen very often. I mean, it's really, really cool if it does, and ideally we'd want it to all the time. But it's not always going to happen. I mean, nobody's ever going to have a perfect rodeo, And so the few times that it happens, it's really cool. But if a girl, say, got second place in one go, and third place in another go, and third in the average, then she would walk away with 130 points because she would have 50 points and 40 and 40, because it drops down 10 for every place you go lower until you get the 6, and then you're 10, and that's it. It gets a little bit trickier math when you start doing the payout, though. And it's not a set number of how many are going to be paid like it is for points. I mean, points, it's just straight up 6 places get points. The payout is determined by how many people enter. So the more people that enter, the deeper it's going to pay, and the more money it's going to pay. Generally, they do what's called a 40-60 payout. So 40% of the money that's calculated all together, every single person that's paid to run, is added together, and 40% of that will stay for the rodeo, or whoever is putting it on to keep. And that's kind of how they pay for us to do it and provide everything. And then 60% of the money will go back into the pot for the contestants to win. And then they'll do it so that, first place gets the most amount, second place gets a little bit less, third gets a little bit less, and it goes all the way down. And then generally it's around, 4 or 5 people that get money for this. And it's split up over into 3 sections. So you have the money for the first go, money for your second go, and the money for the average. And you get paid for each of those just like you would get the points. But it's made so that the last person still makes their entry fee back. So you cannot win less than you got paid. And depending on the secretary, they'll use different formulas for it, but in the end it'll all come out the same. It just kind of depends on what they like to do and what their preference is.